Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure today to introduce Tina Shaw. She is a realtor with Storey and Associates and Remax Treeland here out in the Fraser Valley. Tina is an award-winning realtor with savvy home staging and modern marketing methods. She's also very active in her community with local charities, including 100 Women Who Care Fraser Valley, who to date have raised over $40,000. Tina, welcome to our Zoom series.
Thank you. Very nice intro.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to chat with us today, all things stigmatized properties. Why don't you start maybe a little bit, if there's anything else you'd like to tell us about yourself, or we can just get straight into what is a stigmatized property.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm happy to get into what the stigmatized property is. That was a fabulous intro. And yeah, this is a hot topic these days. So let's dive right in.
Yeah. So what is a stigmatized property, or what qualifies a property to be designated as such?
So it's something that negatively affects the property. So the most common item, the biggest talked about one, would be a murder or a suicide, death of any kind. So that's like the threshold height of it, because whether it's a death or not, as we all know, of course, there's many different kinds of death, and some of them are natural causes and some of them are negative in nature. That's sort of one of the coined terms. And negative in nature would be the murder or a suicide or something really tragic had happened in or on the property. So the land that belongs to the property on title, that counts.
Yeah, that's the most notable one I remember most recently in Vancouver, where something had happened on the lawn out front. Yeah.
Yes, there was a big case about that one.
So tell me, what are the disclosure requirements, I guess, as a seller's agent with regards to a stigmatized property?
So you have a buyer and a seller. So the buyer's agent is the one representing someone coming in to buy the property, and then the selling agent selling the home. Some people don't know the terms. I'll break it down for us. And so if the buyer's walking into a listing and they have a concern, there's something to be said too about people having this concern and not having the concern. There are certain kinds of religions, beliefs, ethic systems, everything. Like certain kinds of people are certainly going to care about a negative a death in the property. Many do not. And the biggest thing that I can say, in having dealt with this already in one of my listings a while back, is it's more so about it's a Western maybe culture thing, because if you go into a home in England where a majority of them are so ancient, there's probably been 5 or 6 deaths, unfortunately. So it's kind of a funny thing. And for our current British Columbia rules, the selling agent, or sorry, I had the buyer over here, so I'll stick with that. The buyer's agent is the one that must ask the selling agent if it's a stigmatized property. So it's up to the buyer's agent to ask and the buyers to do the due diligence. The seller does not have to advertise or in any way disclose that it's a stigmatized property, unless, of course, they're asked.
And I guess stigmatization, if that's a word, around, say, a property that was used as a grow up or with an oil tank, those are already items that are specifically named in the property condition disclosure statement.
Yes, your agent should be putting that in the terms and conditions already.
Those, but something like someone having passed away in the home, not necessarily. But again, as you've identified with certain religions or cultures, they don't want that to have occurred. So, I mean, I can already see how there's serious advantages to a property like this, or buying a property like this, and disadvantages. So can you sort of talk to both sides of that?
Sure. Yeah. I had this listing and we were in a hot market at the time, meaning we were in multiple offers. I ended up talking to, I think we had 6 offers that came in. This was on a listing that I operated as the listing agent, and we had 6 offers come in. And this was many, many years ago now. So I actually had to work through the gray kind of areas and rules with this while I was doing the multiple offer scenario. And what happened was the property that I was representing had a negative, very negative in nature murder in it. And it was an apartment. And I actually didn't know. And the seller was not alive anymore to tell me. And so it was an estate, and they knew, but it wasn't disclosed to me. It was actually the neighbor in an apartment building. So the across the hall neighbor that lived there during the murder said, if you don't tell them, I will. And it was very cryptic. And I was like, what is she talking about? Anyways, I asked her, what are you talking about? And she said, you don't know what happened in there? Oh, it was, and it was a long conversation. I won't go into the details, but essentially, I mean, we could, but essentially there was a murder in the apartment, and it was very tragic. And it was between a husband and a wife. And it happened 14 years prior to this actual sale. So I said, you know what, that's negative in nature. I'm just finding out about it. If the seller was here, they'd probably disclose it. I took the liberty of telling every single person that had an offer in on the property that unfortunately this property has a stigmatized title to it now. It doesn't go on title by any means, but this now is a stigmatized property. Would you still like to write the offer? I think they all walked away, minus one, and then they walked away later. So this was the time, and I do believe that most of them, they said, was the buyers told me, or the buyers agents told me, that most of them were walking away for their own religious and cultural beliefs. They felt that it makes sense. It would adversely affect their enjoyment and their mindset, I guess, if you're in the property going forward. So they walked away, and we were still able to get an offer with that disclosure in place for the next, I think it took about another week. It was a hot market, so lots of buyers at the time.
The disadvantage is that it turns away a certain buyer personality.
Yeah, I would say
it could attract others at the same time who were looking for properties like this, because there may not be as many eyes on it.
Yes. And so it's definitely not advertised when you're looking through online or anything like that. No. There's not a special column to fill out or anything. It's strictly between the conversational aspects. And then later on, you can put it in writing into the offer. But it is one of those things that it is the rule of thumb, because I kind of long answered all of it. I'm just chatting here, is it is up to the buyers to do the due diligence and to ask that question. Okay. It is up to the seller to disclose it if they know. My phone just keeps ringing. And so it's up to the seller if they know. However, if the seller does not want to disclose, this is where it gets gray. If the seller does not want anyone to find out, they can actually advise the listing agent not to tell anyone. And in that case, it is the seller's due diligence, or seller's agent's due diligence, to answer the question in the regard that, hey, the sellers do not wish to answer that question, which is a big fat yes. So anyway, like it's obvious at that point.
A non-answer is an acknowledgement, or I would guess that.
Yes. Yeah. So if ever I answer, or what we do actually as a team is we put it into the contract of purchase and sale. So right in those terms and conditions, we have a customized, legally written term that says this property is not a stigmatized property. That's not the legal terms, but that's the short form of it. Yeah. And then that is added into black and white. It's been asked, and it's been put into black and white that it's not a stigmatized property. And at that point, if it was, the seller should be disclosing that, or the seller's agent. Now, if not, they have to put it in writing, or at least verbally, that they do not wish to disclose it. Every time you buy a property, you end up doing the Google Earth thing, but over and above, I would like to suggest that people do Google the address. And then in Google, you can click a tab that says news. Look, like, you can click flights, you click images. There's also an icon that says news. So go to click that, and it'll have any published news articles about that address. And that'll pop something up quickly.
Would this then impact the value of the property? Like,
yes.
Are they naturally then less expensive as a result?
Yes and no. It didn't affect the listing I had, because again, it was a hot market. So if I was selling that in a slower market, perhaps it could. Yeah, you'd have to reduce. It would, the longer a property's on the market, the worse it looks, is kind of the public's impression. So they'll question if something's wrong with it for sure, if we're seeing something on the market for a while. And that would happen if you're continuously telling people that are interested that it's a stigmatized property, and they end up walking away.
What else should people know around a property like this, either sell side or buy side?
To me, it doesn't necessarily bother me unless it's negative in nature. Like, so if someone peacefully passes away in their sleep or they're at home,
Yeah.
something like that, it doesn't, to me, affect it. Of course, I'm a vibration person. So if I'm in that home and I feel like it's haunted now or something, I don't know, I've never felt that, to be honest.
Yeah.
But if I felt like that, because that's something else that can appear as a stigmatized property, is a haunted property. It's a thing in the older homes more so. So if that's something that bothers you, always let your agent know, please. We want to know if that's something that's going to affect you, and we'll make sure that we highlight that question
Yeah.
before we even engage in an offer.
I think there was a haunted house on like Canby or Oak.
Yeah, there's some downtown ones.
Or King Edward. It was known as the haunted house. So,
Yeah.
oh,
And
Granville or 49th and Churchill, there was one there as well. Yep.
oh, I did hear about that.
Now I'm thinking about.
I know, right? Haunted
Here we
property.
go. Start
Yeah.
looking them up.
Yeah.
But
But there's if it's a murder, I mean, that's gonna I don't know. That would kind of suck to know that the home you're in regularly has that negative
yeah,
effect. I mean, I have lots of people that have approached me about offering a sage to a house, like a cleansed house for the buyers when they move in. And I mean, there are certainly negative energies that can come about that aren't from murder or anything negative as well. So if you believe in that, many people will sage a house and kind of do a clearing of all the energy that's been in the house for a lifetime. Like the house I have here is 1960. So there's been a number of families in here, and that's just a lot of other people's energy, I guess. So if you believe in that, for sure you can have a property.
yeah. So I guess the main thing is do your due diligence.
Yep.
And
Buyer beware.
as a buyer, and then on the sell side, decide what impact you feel it would have in doing a full disclosure.
And timing. If you're a seller and you know that there's been a murder on your property or in it, make sure you're selling in a hot market. So there's a ton of opportunity in buying sense.
I like it. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing of your story. I'm looking to have, obviously these Zoom videos with people who've had like direct experience with specific properties that have uniqueness to them. Because again, while they may seem as like a derogatory term, stigmatized seems derogatory, could be a huge advantage too if it isn't a super hot market and there aren't extra eyes on it, right? It could be
absolutely.
the perfect.
Yeah, you could get a little bit of a deal, maybe.
Yeah, or just not 21 other offers coming in with yours, right? So
how did you know?
right?
Yeah, it's been hot lately. Yeah. So if you're watching this right now, and right now it's April 2023, if you're watching this and our market is as hot as it is, it's a great time to sell your stigmatized property because we've got lots of buyers looking.
Yeah, that's true. There is no product. And also too, depending on when you watch the video, the rules in real estate change all the time. So please connect with Tina for any up-to-date information as it relates to the policies of disclosure, because these are policies as of today.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I am not a lawyer, and any deal you do should go through a lawyer for their professional advice. I am just a realtor. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. Well, thanks again, Tina, for taking the time. And if anyone does have any questions, we'll tag Tina and add her contact information below, but please feel free to reach out to her directly, or for a personal introduction, reach out to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, everyone.